Is anybody else unable to see the agenda that was in the meeting document?
Dean, I can't see it.
I'm sorry, then there was an agenda in there that apparently didn't show up, so. Thanks, Teresa.
Same, I couldn't see it either.
All right, well, I apologize for that because there was an agenda put in there, but I'm sorry it wasn't shared with everybody. But it was mainly for things that we wanted to tell you all about versus getting feedback back. So what was in there, I think we'll get started now. It's 8:02. What was in there was wanted to get some feedback on a tentative plan to offer clubs an opportunity to sell some of the merchandise we have themselves and make some money that way. We would create a Shopify platform that would make it relatively easy to get in there and order for your club. And your club members would probably save a bit on shipping, and the club would generate some revenue that way. So if there's interest in that, we're probably going to roll that out in May, no matter what, and just see how many people are interested. But if people are somehow opposed to it, be great to hear about it now. But or if there's any idea that this might be a good thing for your club, let us know. So that was one thing. The other piece of the agenda was to discuss championship sites and just let everyone know that there was a release that went up on the website, a news release with championship sites where we're still looking for hosts. We're really working pretty hard to try to get sites through 2027. So I would encourage all of you to take a look at that. One of the things I would add there is that there are a number of championships where ideally it's a club with 6 sheets or more, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't do something with 2 clubs that are in close proximity. So, or that if someone was really wanted to host an event and they only had 4 or 5 sheets, that we couldn't make adjustments. One of the things we are trying to do is just get away from always having different draws. We'd love to have set draws for events and eliminate a lot of the mistakes, frankly, that can happen when you do a new draw, just adjusting for times and number of sheets, etc. So those are 2 big things. And then the other thing I will add before I turn it over to everybody else is Chris Lisney has asked me, I think he's on the call, but he's asked me a number of times about the possibility of having someone in the US who could sharpen scraper blades. Now, my understanding is that I've never met an ice tech down here who wants to send their scraper blades anywhere but to Canada Curling Stone, or and what I've heard is that it's an expensive machine to make or expensive to adjust a machine so it can sharpen scraper blades. But if anybody has any thoughts on that, or if your club has had success with a certain facility here in the United States, that would probably help some member clubs versus always trying to ship or have someone drive a scraper blade to Canada. So those are 2 things. One other thing I'll just add, the membership model, the update is I think if I check today, we're just a little above 16,000 members total. So that is a pretty good number and beyond our earlier projections. I think the biggest thing is we're close to 14,000 at the basic level. Our projections were 12,000 is what we're looking for this year. So we're beyond that, and appreciate the support of all the clubs and members who have joined. And I think we're seeing that it's been fairly well received. But I'll stop there and let anybody else throw out any thoughts on things that are on the minds of people at your clubs or on the minds of you. I've killed the room again. So,
Dean, I've got one thing and then one question I want to ask the
sure.
group. Just so everyone knows, we're quickly going to be putting out the call for nominations for the board of directors for USA Curling. There are two spots that'll be up for election at the next members meeting, whenever that is. It's not scheduled yet. But Jeff Annis, who represents Minnesota, and then myself, both of our terms our positions are up for re-election. I certainly will be asking my regions to support me, and I'm sure Jeff, Jeff still is eligible for one more. I won't put him on the spot for telling us if he wants to be reelected or not. But just to let you know that, this is a democracy. If there's, if you want to nominate someone the next couple months, your regions will be reaching out to do that. But the question I want to ask is, there was a presentation given by our chief operating officer not too long ago about the insurance offerings and the changes in the insurance offerings. And I just wanted to ask all of you did that information filter down to your clubs? And do you feel like you're empowered to understand what the new insurance model is and how it applies to your club and what to do if a claim were to happen?
So we have some hands up, but I don't know if they're in reference
about the
to
question.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so because I missed a couple of them, but maybe Kara just put her hand up, so maybe I'll start with Kara and Chris and Mike and Lauren. I'll come back to you because you were up early, but I'll go to Kara first.
Hi. I'm filling in for our actual club council rep.
Sure.
She and actually our other club council rep, the male, could not make it this evening. So I'm filling in. I'm the club president of Oval Curling Club in Salt Lake. And I asked them about how the other meetings went, and they just said, they talked about insurance, but none of the information made sense to us. So we don't have anything to pass on to you. So we did actually have an incident in our league. And it has been, it happened in December, but it was a big issue trying to figure out who to go to for the information. And we're still trying to figure that out, get his insurance figured out. So I would just say that no, none of the information made it back to our club. And if there's any way to get an email with that, or I did see that it's now on the website, so that might help. But I have felt 100% unprepared to deal with the injury that happened. And I have no idea what to hand out to participants when they get injured at Learn to Curls, because we do like 400 people a month for Learn to Curls. And so we always have injuries. And so I never know what to give to them.
Well, I can answer a couple things. And one is, I think I've talked to Craig about that incident, and I believe it sort of happened since it happened in December. My last thought on it was that Loomis and LePan, our previous provider, was going to deal with it. But email me and Craig separately if it's not being resolved to your satisfaction. In terms of curlers who are on the ice during Learn to Curls, this is where I think some of the biggest confusion has happened. So the coverage we've always had covers the club from liability for that person. I think somebody needs to mute themselves maybe. So that the coverage protects the club against someone having an injury and making a claim against the club. So that protection. Now, what in this model and in the old model as well, not knowing, for instance, you're saying you have 400 people through Learn to Curl in a month. There's no way for an insurance company to offer all those people without a distinct number, offer all of them the participant accident coverage that USA Curling members get. So in terms of what you provide them, you're protected as a club. Their health insurance would kick in, but what the individual participant accident insurance covers a USA Curling member. It is one reason why in the past we've discussed having a one-day membership that we would offer to clubs if you wanted to be able to offer that to participants. But your members, USA Curling members, are all covered by the participant accident insurance, if that makes sense, Kara.
Yeah, so I guess I was under the impression that anybody that came to learn to curl and got hurt got additional medical coverage, but that's not the case.
No, because I mean,
Okay.
there's no, that would be an insurance company issuing a blanket coverage to
Right.
just anyone,
Right.
right?
Okay,
And
makes sense.
if you know anything about actuarial science, yeah, they can't really, not that I know a lot about it, but they can't really, they can't really do that. So it is
Right.
actually why in the past, even last year during the membership model discussion, we talked about having what some other NGBs do, where they have a one-day, they'll call it a one-day license. So somebody does sign up for Learn to Curl, and there are probably ways, and we're looking at it, but there are probably ways we could do that where, say it's a $5 membership, the club gets $2. We get a couple dollars and one goes to the insurance, but there are certainly ways we can carve that up. You are protected as a club though, which I think is
Okay.
the biggest thing. So somebody can't come after, I mean, well, they could, but you will have insurance if someone tries to sue you.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, and seriously, send Craig and I an email, and we'll try to get the other situation resolved as quickly as we can.
Okay, sounds good.
Chris, Lisney, and then I'm going back to Mike and Lauren because they were first.
Yeah, I was just going to talk a little bit about insurance. So Craig was really helpful in understand. I still have some questions that I have to run by him. It was actually really difficult to talk to our club about insurance because nobody wants to read insurance documents. And I think that the
Me
insurance
included.
coverage has either changed over the years significantly. It seems like everybody had a different idea of what was involved and whatever. So, but a couple of us have dug into it the last couple weeks, and I've met with our insurance agent, and we've kind of sorted out what the coverages are. Unfortunately, we can't. I think we're going to make the decision to continue to pay for our own general liability insurance, and that's mostly because we have a big old building, and it's been really hard to get property insurance for it, and the general
Right.
liability is all kind of tied in, and there's an alcohol component in our general liability, and so we've like looked at it, and it looks like if we split that all apart, it would be kind of difficult. I think that there's an excess policy that I think that we can leverage that you guys have, which will save us about $2,500 a month, or a year, which is cool. And I think we're double covered, so we're gonna if we had a claim, we would do it to both insurance companies, which is kind of nice because it's not nice. It just is what it is. So
Yeah, I will say on that, Chris, I think every club's a little different in terms of, like you're mentioning your older building. I know that Denver Curling Club has told me that they think they were able to carve out some general liability from their existing policy and save about $6,000 a year. So I would
I'm guessing that their building though is probably
Yeah.
new. Like ours is
yeah,
old, and I asked I was like, oh, is it timber frame? And they're like, part of it is a Quonset hut,
right. I would
So-
just encourage anybody on this call. It's like worth your club leadership talking to you, whoever your broker is for your other insurance, to see if there's anything where you can carve out. Because I know some clubs have been able to do that. I know other clubs, quite frankly, in the situation Chris is in, where they weren't able to do that. So,
Yeah.
and
We
I certainly
probably
don't claim to
could,
be an
but
insurance expert.
there's all sorts of things tied up in it. It's like
Sure.
close to hard equals true right now.
Well, what we will do is, continue to send Craig and myself any questions you have related to insurance, or if there's things that are moving slowly. I am convinced Dissinger and Reed will be more proactive than our previous carrier, or previous broker. So I do, but the same token, I want to hear from people if they're not. Lauren, Sorry it took so long to get to you, but you were early.
No problem. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Whitmer, Bowling Green Curling Club. I just wanted to offer an invite to everybody in this group. After our last meeting, I emailed Dean and Lauren and Mackenzie offering to kind of help structure a Teams environment that we would all be able to use to communicate, asynchronously between meetings, set up different topic areas for people looking for different types of information that might be useful to clubs, share resources, etc. I am happy if somebody wants to join in that building out of Teams process. So if you're interested, send me a message or email Dean or whatever. I'm heartened by the space, and I'd like to, help facilitate it in any way I can.
Well, I appreciate that, Lauren. I'll just say that as the guy who didn't get the agenda in this meeting, I'll be happy to have your help there. So I do see in the team we have, there are some people one person from I guess Vanessa from Nashville did post, but obviously happy to have your help, and we'll definitely take advantage of it. And let's circle back after this meeting and figure out how to make that as efficient as possible for you. Mike O'Brien.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Mike O'Brien from Superior Curling Club. In years past, I've been able to pull up a current copy of the rules of curling for club and bonspiel use. The most recent copy I can find is like 2011. When I go to the website, it references that we're now following the rules of curling for the World Curling Federation, which is like over 60 pages. I'm wondering if there's something we can do for clubs and particularly bonspiel use to just have a nice, concise list of rules.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. And to be honest, there's a few things we've discovered as we moved to the WCF rulebook, which was really predicated on the idea that we would simplify the process, not duplicate the work. But there are some instances where they don't have formats that match whatever format either we're using at a championship or a bonspiel might be using. So you would be looking for just a general rules of curling, USA Curling rules of curling document that would, so like whether you're going to use the no tick rule or, because I don't want to impose on a bonspiel what format or rules they use. It's not really our place. I mean, if a bonspiel wants to, play furthest from the button, that's fine. I'm all for having whatever people want to do. So, but you would like something would it be related to just competition play or draw structure, or which?
No, just basically basic rules of curling,
Okay.
What constitutes a burned rock, what constitutes.
Okay. Yeah.
Just all those little details.
Sure. That would make sense.
And, you could have something like the tick rule as an option, but it's listed in there and saying it's up to each box to determine whether they're going to use it. Something like that. Yeah.
And I know we exchanged emails about your 5 and under bonspiel, and so I can understand why you're asking about it. I think that's a good idea. I think years ago, what you probably saw, I think years ago, my clubs might still have an old version of it. There was a poster that was sort of basic rules of curling, but if people think that would be helpful, it probably would be. I think maybe we could make it better than it was back then. That'd be good. Kara.
Yes.
You had your hand up. It was ages ago, so I'm probably getting back to you.
No, you already got to me. I don't have
All
anything
right.
else.
Okay, Carrie. Sorry. I'm sorry, Carrie. We just talked. So sorry, the Utah Oval. My apologies. So, and insurance. Jim McMahon.
Yeah, following up on that rules of curling thing. One thing years ago when I was a member of the USGA, they sent out a pocket guide to rules of golf. And I thought a while back, I said that would be kind of a cool thing for the members when people are joining with the basic membership model, if we had something similar that could, I know it's extensive, but you know, a stripped down version of the rules of curling that could go to memberships as a members as a pocket guide.
Yeah, not a bad idea because we can't send bag tags everywhere every year. By the way, does anybody have their bag tag yet? Because they are supposed to go out this week. If you get one, please.
Not yet.
Everybody's shaking their head, which is super frustrating. But I think that could be true, Jim. I think USGA is often a great organization for us to steal ideas from. So if there was some sort of pocket guide that maybe doesn't get into everything but covers a lot of stuff, that might be good.
Dean, we've got a few questions in the chat as well.
Oh, sure. Great. Thanks, Lauren. Lauren just said the recording is on the website of Craig's Insurance presentation. And she's also added the documentation of it. I'm not on the board of the Granite Curling Club. Not sure we understand the changes. You're not already enrolled in the DNO option. That's something we're investigating, Hannah. We'd like to be able to offer that separately to clubs. And what the hope there is that collectively, if we can, marshal our numbers, we could offer a really good competitive DNO coverage piece. I see Craig's on here now, so Craig, if I misspoke there, just let me know.
Yeah,
Craig,
that'd
we
be
can hear
great.
you.
Thanks. That would be. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I
Hey.
couldn't hear Craig. Craig was
Oh.
responding to Dean's prompt.
Oh, he's on mute. Craig, you're on mute right now. Oh, no, he's. So yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, consider us interested because we've had a very difficult time finding a DNO policy that like works for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be a huge help.
Yeah. Well, we're investigating it with Dissinger Reed. I know Craig is, and I hope that my hope is that because it's we could sort of marshal all our clubs. It might enable us to get a better rate. Looks like Craig's back on his phone now, maybe having some challenges with tech.
Yeah, some tech issues. We do have on the website from Dissinger Reed some DNO opportunities. So if clubs are interested or don't have DNO insurance, it is on the website.
But it's not included in the policy that clubs get, right?
No, it's a package available for purchase. Some clubs have
Okay.
DNO already, some don't. So it's just an option that's available to them if they don't have it.
Great. Waiver forms on the website. This is from Teresa. Craig, I don't know if should they be using the one that's on the website as part of our insurance package, or I know there are a million waivers out there, and I know most lawyers will tell you that they can poke holes in any of them, but what about the waiver that's on our site?
Well, we do have two waivers, the adult participant and the minor participant. They are still good to go. That hasn't been impacted by our insurance. So you should always have those signed, and you can access them on our website when you click under membership and then choose insurance.
Yeah, so when I was a club president, I just always understood the waiver as maybe one extra measure of protection when you have a learn to curl. It's not like I said, it's not that anybody couldn't find a lawyer who would say they could get past it, but.
Well, waivers basically are an acknowledgement that there is the risk of injury escalating and up to death usually is how they're written, but it's just an acknowledgement by the participant. They recognize that there is the risk of injury. It doesn't preclude the facility from being negligent in a liability case, but it just is an acknowledgement by the participant that they recognize that there is some risk in participating.
So I guess the overall question I'm going to guess from, as Teresa expressed it here just now, Craig, is with our insurance, should they be using that specific one? Was that the best course of action?
Yeah, they should use the waivers that are available on our website.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Teresa.
Yep,
It's
thank
a good
you.
one. All right. Other questions that have come up? I
Jamie's
remember.
had a hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie Katanak, Curl Vegas. So I do have one insurance question. I apologize for this. Maybe it's for Craig, but in my notes from maybe the previous meeting, is there like additional insurance that can be purchased for the board, or is that included, or did I totally get that wrong?
Well, I think
That
that's a
is
D&O insurance, right?
talking about. So if you go to our website under membership and then you select insurance, there'll be 2 coverage programs. And so the left-hand coverage program is directors and officers that is available to clubs to purchase from Dissinger Reed.
Okay, I'll take a look. And then number 2, I mean, this is going back a while, but it was probably when the Hollywood Club came to Vegas to do a Learn to Curl, but I ended up with one of these booklets, I don't know if you can see it, but it's this Learn to Curl Spirit Delivery. Are they available still? I don't know if you can see this.
We don't have any of those printed, Jamie.
Yeah.
And I know other people have asked about it. In this digital age, we frankly don't print a lot, but there seems to be some demand for maybe something like that. I think we can redesign something that we could make available.
Yeah, I mean, these would be great to hand out, even like a smaller version to Learn to Curl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I keep
No,
this handy anytime I do a Learn to Curl. I keep it in my back
Well,
pocket.
now you have to. I'm afraid right now you have to ask for it back after the Learn to Curl, but hopefully we can change that.
Yeah, and I think that one other thing, then I'm done. I think that getting some of these groups set up in teams, I think that would be awesome because Vegas, we're within a month of transitioning from arena to a dedicated ice facility, and it'd be nice to have a conversation about clubs that have recently done what we're doing and what we can expect that we haven't anticipated. So yeah, I think that would be great. And teams isn't that bad once you kind of get into it.
Jamie, on that, I could also add you to the Arena Club Working Group, which includes mainly people who are still in arena clubs, but also, can help with that. And then I don't know if you've been on the content platform and looked through some of the stuff there. I'm guessing you guys have. And by the way, great work moving along down there in Vegas. But there are, if you send me an email separately, Jamie, there's also just some people I can connect you with that I think would be valuable who've recently completed the journey you're on. So,
Okay.
I can understand that.
That would be great. That'd be
All
awesome
right.
because we're should be within a month. We'll have the ice downs. Okay. Thank you.
Very exciting. Trying to see if there's anything else in the chat. By the way, if you have unforgiving spouses or partners, I apologize for having this meeting on February 14th. I didn't realize this was when it was going to land on Valentine's Day. I'll count my wife in the sort of understanding category.
Matt, I think you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I had a question. Well, actually, I wanted to just comment. So, going all the way back to the members assembly and those virtual sessions, I really liked some of the sessions that were there. I really liked the one that Bobby Ray gave about membership growth and ways to bring people in different ways and being flexible with leagues. So right now what we do is, our season, we're a dedicated club. Our season's 20 weeks long. It's a really long season. To some of us, it may not seem long because we're used to it, but for others, you say, wow, that's a long time. So we've been reading about the sort of emergence of leagues that are like 6 weeks long. And we have one at our club. It's intended for new people with the intention of once you do that 6-week club or 6-week league, then you join a 20-week league. And if you don't want to do that, then there's not really an option to redo the beginner league. So I was just wondering if any other clubs had any success stories or failure stories or things that they're trying to work on, or if there's resistance within clubs to say that all we want are 20-week seasons, all we want are people that can play 3-4 months a year, so that our club is starting to plan for the future and plan for next year and see what our schedule's like. I'm sure lots of other clubs are kind of in the same boat as well. If these are if any other clubs have tried these out and what they think of them.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Matt. I'd love to hear from clubs that are trying different things. So I'll turn over. Jim's got his hand up, and then Chris.
Yeah, our club's been using multiple types of lengths of leagues. That we have some more traditional longer leagues that we do in the 15 to 16 week range. Our season does run September through July, so pretty long. It's how we pay rent, and so we got to do it. But mixed in based on our Learn to Curl schedule and our lesson series that we run consistently for 3 to 4 weeks at a time. So lessons run 4 consecutive weeks. We then, at the end of every lesson series, have a short league that's open for anyone to enter, both weeknight and weekend leagues, so that we can always be transitioning one class from a Learn to Curl to a lesson to a league based for learners, and then into eventually a full-time league. We've seen a lot of success with the smaller, shorter leagues that may even run alongside a 3-sheet league that is pretty full, and then we add 2 sheets of a smaller league that transitions partway through the year.
That's an idea I've heard a couple clubs use, but not a lot. But it seems like a great one to use some maybe a night that has not quite as much action. Yeah, I'm finding, I think to Matt's point, Bobby Ray's point was that we're, as a sport, we sort of go on if you consider the Learn to Curl the first date, we take someone out for the first date and then we ask them to marry us, and we want them to commit to 20 weeks, which is a lot. So I think that if your club is struggling with your conversion rate, certainly something there's lots of good options out there. Chris, Lisney.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we do St. Paul. We have a spring league in the spring. It happens, it's like 5-6 weeks like that. And that's kind of our primary way of introducing new people. And a lot of times, like a more seasoned curler will bring friends or people that want to learn to curl, and they'll play in a 5-6 week deal. And then oftentimes, if they're interested, they'll get on a league. That's actually how I started curling. So
got it. One thing I do love about this idea of if you have like 3 or 4 sheets of a regular league and then 1 sheet of a rookie league or whatever you want to call it, is that they get to see what it's actually like when everybody sort of knows what they're doing, which I think is valuable. I know that in the last Olympics, I forget which club I talked to, but they were big on doing Learn to Curls during the Olympics while there were league games on. So they would just cancel 2 league games, have 2 play. So anyways, I think that's, probably a good project for us in the off season to summarize some of the different approaches, but somebody else has their hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin Miller and the Columbus, Ohio club.
Hi, Kevin.
So we do something kind of similar. We do our instructional leagues. So like you do a Learn to Curl and then you go and do like a 6-week instructional league, which is essentially an hour of like actual coaching and instruction, and then like a little mini game afterwards. So it's not a true like competitive league by any means, but something that it's kind of helped for conversion from that is that we will usually, especially the instructional leagues that are closer to the beginning of a league start, we sort of like intentionally short fill a few teams. We usually have 2 or 3 teams that are only 3-man teams. And by that 3rd week of instructional league, players are usually good enough that you can like get on the ice and play at least to fill a spot, right?
Right.
And then and start to sort of advertise as, hey, we need subs for these teams. Like they are begging for players. Anybody that could fill in, they'd really, really appreciate it. And you sort of get these new players roped into onto a team, right, where they're feeling like, hey, I'm doing you a favor by subbing, so anything I do is kind of helping out. I know that's kind of how they tricked me into getting into it full time a few years back. So yeah, that's something that really helped with us, that you end up like, and then as an instructional league member, we consider you a member of the club, so you aren't in any official leagues, but you're allowed to sub in as many leagues as you want to.
Right.
And so that's how we kind of like let people dip their toe into the water without actually committing to a full season necessarily, where they can do that. And then we let people, you're allowed to sign up for as many instructional leagues as you want. So like we've had members that they did 3-4 different instructional leagues over different times because they just couldn't commit to being a full-time member or anything like that. So they would just sign up for an instructional league and then do that for 6 weeks and then, kind of sub here or there as they needed. So, and then we also, just with like, as mixed doubles has gained popularity, we've added at the end of the season, we do a 2-week mixed doubles league, but it's like 3 nights a week instead of being 1 night. So it's just like, we do something just real right at the end, right before they take the ice out. We try and sneak in a mixed doubles league there because it's a little bit quicker. So that's just something else we've done for short leagues too.
Hey, I know I mentioned it's something that we need to do in the off season, but in the continued spirit of asking the curling community to help, is there anybody on this call who would be interested in compiling some of these different approaches? Could probably do it just from within this group. And nobody has to put their hand up now, but if someone's interested in that, let me know. Otherwise, we can certainly do it in the off season. But I know there are sometimes, if you have a passion for this and you want to do that, I think that would be a great document in our content platform. We often talk to clubs about having things like rookie leagues and beginner leagues. And maybe, in my opinion, it's different things work at different clubs. So you sort of have to tailor it to your own club, but it might be helpful to people to see a range of options. I see Lauren has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of tack on to what Matt said. We've been trying to push for some just more creative leagues to let people try other things. We recently wrapped up was it a 6-week mini league of triples?
Nice.
Which unfortunately we got on the schedule kind of late, so it wasn't as full as we think it might have been. But I would love to learn more about, we just have a lot of people, even like established club members, who are starting to feel a little burnt out by doing 2 20-week leagues and, are asking for more things like maybe 1 20-week league and maybe I do a 6-week league, so not exclusive, shorter leagues, not exclusively for brand new curlers. And at the same time, we're struggling to convince some of our more old school members that this is a valuable thing and that we shouldn't be taking a do it my way or get out kind of approach. That was a little bit of extreme representation, but you get what I mean.
No, I think there's often resistance to these kind of change, right? And some of it is just that society's changed. So I think we do have to be open to different ideas. And I've talked to clubs where they have a large number of snowbirds, for instance, so they lose people in the winter, and they've gone to like trimester memberships. So I do think there's a lot of good ideas here. Yeah, and we'll try to, whether we're working with someone in this group or try to put them together into something. So because that just might spark discussion at your club, and also knowing if you're up against people who want to have everybody pay for the full season, maybe there's some data there that helps them understand why some other variations of leagues would be a good idea.
Well, I'll also just say, since I'm the one that asked the question, you're looking for someone to put together a list of ways that people are doing their leagues. I could certainly try to volunteer some time
I would love that, Matt. I like your writing, so I think that you'd probably be great for
I
it.
mean, yeah, I'm not doing anything else, so
Perfect.
kind of dormant on that front, so I might as well put it to good use. But yeah, I'd love to try to, and hopefully that's helpful for other leagues as well as they try to plan out how they can take the ice they have and, you know, apportion it out as needed to people that want it.
Yeah, I mean, even just, you know, the surfaced idea of, you know, if you have 3 sheets going or 4 sheets going and you have 1 sheet of a beginner league, that's great. So I do think sometimes, you know, my club in 2010, I guess we did a beginner league that was Saturday mornings at 8, and we would have other members join it. And it worked really well. We converted a lot, but at the same time, we're sort of stuck because we're a 2-sheet club, but you know, some of those people may not have seen what it was like to play in a regular league all the time. Just sending Lauren forwarding you an email. Any issues with the new membership model this year? Questions related to that? Besides, you can go back to your clubs and tell them bag tags are on the way. We're checking it. We're pushing our vendor every week, so it's a little bit frustrating. And Matt, it looks like Liz would like to connect with you, some of the leagues they have going.
I see that. Thanks.
Kevin.
Yeah, kind of changing gears here, but I did have a member sort of asking me in regards to 5 and under competitions.
Yep.
And in regards to the 5 and under nationals and stuff.
Yep.
Is there any thought to, as that continue, and I know it's fairly new, but as it continues to gain popularity, to like restricting it to regions for at least some of the spiels? I know the concern was raised specifically for ours, only because the GLCA like official 5 and under spiel is coming up this weekend. I think like 60% of the teams are not from the GLCA, so it's it becomes an interesting thing as it gains popularity, where people are starting to travel around a bit more and competing in other regions and stuff to try and make it to the national events. I didn't know if there's any thought or any discussion of potentially changing this, sort of like play downs are, where you're sort of region restricted, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. This has come up, and I have a group who's played in the 5 and under the last 2 or 3 years that I communicate with quite a bit. But there's another side to that thinks we shouldn't have region restricted events as qualifiers, that people would like it to be wide open everywhere. So I understand that there's sort of 2 schools of thought. What we have tried to do, rather than go to a strict regional basis, is when we select the 23 qualifier spiels, we try to factor in both history of the spiel. We're obviously trying to get some of the bigger ones as qualifiers, and then also regional representation. So there is at least always one relatively close that someone can play in, including Alaska. But on the question of whether it's strictly regional or not, I think that, I will say, I think there's 2 sides to that. There's people on both sides of that, is I guess what I'm saying. Happy to keep having the conversation. Not every region has a 5 and under bonspiel. Some have huge ones. Some have, very small ones. So I'm glad you brought it up, Kevin. I don't have a great answer for you, but I'm happy to keep having the discussion.
Yeah, I know even the suggestion that was kind of made to me by that member was like, even to do to have each region essentially has one where it's a region locked one, and then have the rest of them be wild cards, right? And so you sort of get both sides of the coin of like, hey, each region will be represented. You get your own spiel from your region, but then potentially have all however many others to be wild cards to fill out the rest of the field there, and then you still get that option to travel around and sort of compete as needed.
Right.
Just a thought that was, like I said,
Yep.
it was just somebody asked me about it, and that was one of the suggestions they had made. So I just didn't know if there was any thought or discussion on it.
No, I'm glad you brought it up, and we'll have that discussion some more and talk about it. Bit of a tricky one, but I can understand the sentiment on both sides, to be honest here. So, but it's worth having that discussion about it.
Well, and Dean, we can share that we're putting together a
right
a competitions advisory council where we've selected some members from around the country with various levels of competition experience to serve as, you know, an advisory committee to bounce those types of ideas off of and make recommendations to the board on those, or to the staff. So that's a great question. I wrote it down, and I will, you know, have them talk about it when they meet.
You know, just on that, there are other regions like the Dakota Territory, because the flip side of that, they didn't want to have it be locked only to Dakota Territory teams. They actually run two separate events. So they have a Dakota Territory 5 and under champion, and then that Dakota Territory 5 and under champion plays someone from the other bracket who's not in the Dakota Territory for the spot. So there's been a number of ways people have carved this up, but one of the biggest things that I think I'll just add quickly is that one of the things we wanted to do with the 5 and under nationals was help fuel the whole 5 and under Bonspiel ecosystem. And I would say it's been pretty successful at that, because a lot of spiels now want to be qualifiers. So like if we went to region only, we might have, you know, we'd have some tougher decisions to make, but doesn't exclude it. But I just think that, you know, part of the motivation for this event is to really have 23 great 5 and under Bonspiels, or have more than that, quite frankly, and maybe in the future having to rotate different ones in as qualifiers.
Great, thanks. I look forward to hearing more about that also, Brett. That competition committee sounds interesting.
I will say I'm always encouraged by the passion and enthusiasm of our 5 and under curlers. I don't know how many 5 and under curlers are on this call, but yeah, they're an engaged group. So and I don't know if I don't think he's on here, but Matt Pesos has been a big help this year with keeping track of finishes, et cetera, and qualification process. I think Sarah was making a point in the chat. Maybe I could see the issue of crowding in 5 and unders, especially after an Olympic year. A lot of people just want to have fun and not be in the competitive heat or travel. Yeah, I think there's plenty of room for 5 and under Bonspiels that aren't qualifiers either. So, or there's also plenty of people playing the 5 and under qualifiers that aren't really focused at all, I think, on getting to 5 and under nationals. So I would hope there's room. I think there's room for everyone. Obviously, there's a number of 5 and under Bonspiels that don't apply to be qualifiers, probably because they like the current nature of their spiel. I will say that study that was done by Michael Cantors at NC State, one of the things we learned through that, and it's not a surprise, but is that people, especially in the 25 to 40-year-old age range, which I think is sort of the sweet spot for successful clubs, a lot of sort of that young adults, they start curling partly for the competition, whether it's, doesn't have to mean it's, super intense competition, but I think it's actually a selling point for a sport in that otherwise you can be 25, you played a sport in college, you can't play it anymore. And then your options are go to the gym or something else. So people do like to compete. I'm not sure sometimes if we shouldn't make that more of a selling point for curling, that there's, you can compete at multiple levels, right? Even if you're a brand new curler, you're competing against the person playing your position on the other side. And we may have to figure out how to get that message out there a little better.
Hey, Dean, I have a couple insurance clarifiers if you got it.
Great.
So Dean had mentioned earlier with our former carrier, we did actually process a couple of accident claims, and the former carrier's policy was over at the end of November, but they still were able to process them. Usually it's the language is 60 days or within a reasonable amount of time. So if any of you had any injuries prior to December 1st, we can still file those. We've had a number of claims since December 1st with our new carrier, and all that information is on the website for the accident, participant accident. And then a specific question to Kara, because I think I might be able to save you an email, or sorry to Chris, sorry to Kara at Olympic Oval. Is it if it's regarding MK, then he and I spoke connected as recently as yesterday. So if it is about MK, you don't need to send Dean and I an email. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Craig. And that should help clarify a few things there. So I said over a year ago when I that I was hoping I would be able to talk more about curling and less about insurance in the future, but we'll always be talking about insurance, I guess. But I do think it's the participant accident is a pretty valuable piece of a basic USA Curling membership. So if there's one message I would take back to people on the basic membership, if you think that it's $25, I'm going to do a tiny bit of sales here and then I'll stop. But it's $25. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase of $100 or more at the online store. And you're getting that participant accident coverage, which could really help if you have something serious and your health insurance only goes so far. So I'll stop with the pitch though. But unless, Bernie from Rocket City saved his $20 in about 10 minutes, I think. So, but he's our best merch buyer. So. So we're coming up on an hour, and I like to keep these to under an hour. Oh, we got Chris has his hand up, so we'll talk to Chris first.
I have two things. One is when you said you were setting up some sort of merchandise site, is that for the clubs to buy things for us to resell?
Yes. So the idea would be that it would be within Shopify, but it'll be a separate platform. So a club could go in and see, you can sell the USA Curling soft shell jacket, and you'd be getting it for a price below what it's available for on our site. So essentially sort of a wholesale price, and there probably would be minimum order information.
So we'd have to buy like inventory. It wouldn't be like,
yeah, you would be carrying inventory. I mean, one way you could do it though is you could say if we have 12 people want a jacket or a shirt, we could buy it and make money on each one. So
yeah, and then that's cool. We have somebody who are actually the person that's going to be the next club president, actually, or whatever. She runs our merchandise, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and just to be clear on that, I mean, we want to offer it as a service, but I also understand a lot of clubs probably want to sell their own club merchandise first. But if there's demand for this, then we'd be happy to.
I'll want to buy her. It seems to me like people probably like that might be kind of cool. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we didn't really talk about the scraper blade thing.
Oh yeah.
Which totally made me feel like this call is all about USA Curling and not about me. And being it's Valentine's Day and everything. No. I just wanted, if anybody has any ideas around that, like Craig, our ice maker, I had him clarify, and he just said anytime that anything major needs to happen, like he's tried some U.S. Firms to try to do the blades, it requires some special thing, and it never comes back the way he likes it. So anytime we need to do any maintenance on stones or anything of major, he says we send it to Canada or to someplace in Europe, which seems insane. But if anybody has any suggestions, or says, oh, we use Bob's trailer or truck shop down the street and they're great. If you could let me know, I'm just,
Yeah, I will tell you, Chris, like 2 weeks ago, I was with, you know, in a room a lot of times with like 10 ice techs. And yeah, they all said it's a very specific machine design that they think would be expensive to build. So, and then it's of limited return, I guess, for someone in the US to build it in a way that would make it work. And I know my club here tried to supply her down here and it didn't work well. So we'll continue to
maybe USA
investigate that.
Curling could rent a truck and we could go
Yeah.
all the way around, collect all the blades, and then head up to wherever it is.
I thought we
drink
were
some
going to
beer.
rent a truck that had the sharpener on it, and that was going to be a new revenue stream for us. We're just going to drive around sharpening blades.
You could do
So,
that. I was thinking delivering them to Canada.
All right, we might start doing that.
I thought Chris was taking us on a road trip, is what it sounded like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go. Let's go.
That's
all I got.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the scraper blade thing is I just asked quickly, Phil from Seattle Granite asked if there's a possibility having both USA Curling and local clubs co-branded on one item. We are looking at that with our supplier, which is OCS, which is Columbia's partner, their third-party partner. So we're going to investigate that. We've been trying to push Columbia to do more of that. I think it's just hard sometimes for them to wrap their heads around our market when they're used to selling at, Dick's Sporting Goods. So we're working on it with them, talk to them about it a lot. They're enthusiastic. I think it's just low on their to-do list. So I think right now tonight at 1:05, there's a lunar launch going off that they're very excited about because it has Columbia fabric on it. So there you go. Ben Shapiro says Evan Workin collects the blades and brings them to Canada. So Evan's already got that business going. I don't want to crowd him out. So I know. I once went to a cash spiel in Canada with 2 scraper blades in the back of my car for my club. So I know it's not easy. Right, we're right at 8:59. Does anybody have anything just before we leave? Oh, John. Hey, John from Long Island.
Hey, yeah. Just want to say, attended nationals last week. A bunch of our club mates did too. Great event. Thank you. And congrats on, I guess, convincing FIFA to host the final right across the street, which was announced right after the final on Sunday.
Yeah, once they saw our event, John,
it's gotta
FIFA
be
called
there.
me up. Yeah, they called me up, FIFA, and said, should we do that? And I said, yeah, appreciate that, and appreciate all the support of the area clubs for that event. They were essential to pulling it off.
Maybe they'll get that train station running full time by then.
Yeah.
But it was interesting venue. Strange place, but it worked pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, in the end, I think it was great for us, and we exposed the sport to a lot of new people. It was certainly anxiety-inducing at times, but I think it was worth the risk and the challenge. And hats off to our Sean Olson and his crew. Lauren's on here too, I think, and the ice crew was pretty amazing. Somebody else, we are actually looking at sheep for merch, thanks to our ice crew. We have the ice crew not only does good ice, but also comes up with internet memes. And just before we go, I'll say, Bob, we are looking at sort of like what you mentioned, a drop ship option of sorts. Some of it gets down to minimum orders, but it is being investigated. It's like somebody else has their hand up. Oh, that was John. Okay. Not trying to cut it off at 9. I just have found that when these meetings go on too long, we start to lose good members of the meeting. So if Lauren and I'll talk to you and we'll get the teams a little more active. And that should help as well. I would like that chat in there to be a good source for everybody here and, prompt good conversation in between meetings. I think Matt Sussman said that early, that's when most of the real work happens. So, And Lauren's is saying our next Ice Tech virtual education series will be, which the name we don't really love, virtual education series, but that's what we have right now, will be what we learned from making ice at the mall, and you'll get the real story behind the sheep. So that's a no-brainer to attend that. That's gonna be a big one.
Well, everyone, let's let Dean go and spend the rest of his evening with his wife.
No,
Happy
appreciate
Valentine's Day,
everyone.
everybody. Thanks for joining.
Everybody. Appreciate your
Happy
contributions.
Valentine's Day.
All right.
Thanks.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks, everybody.